Okay, so this week what we are doing is we are going to be kind of working with both software applications together. So last week, of course, we were working with Mudbox to just kind of explore, play with the software, make something, paint something, just kind of play, right? I find that to be a great first lesson because just getting in there and kind of having fun can be a really good way of just kind of getting used to working in an application. So, getting used to the interface, what all the buttons are, where everything's located, all of those things, how to navigate and rotate, and all of that fun stuff. But we've also been using 3ds Max for the last couple of weeks. So that's what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be creating something in here to bring over there. I will say I have found often Mudbox works best if you start thinking about your model as pieces. So I mentioned kit bashing in our intro video, and that's kind of what we're going to be picking up on. I found that trying to create multiple pieces inside of Mudbox, while the tools are there and there are ways to create new geometry in Mudbox, I haven't had the best success with it. I found way more success in creating the geometry separate and trying to think of my model as components and then bringing over those components. Now, the good news is how complicated or how much time you spend on those components can vary. And the truth is, if you spend a little more time on the base components, sometimes it can save you some time over in the sculpting area, as well as sometimes you just don't and you just kind of phone it in and get it over there. There are some remeshing and retopology tools inside of Mudbox. There are some really good retopology tools inside of Max as well. What that means, the term retopology basically means taking the geometry of the model itself and remaking it. So retopology means taking the actual polygons, the little boxes that your object is made out of, or triangles, and replacing those while keeping the same general shape. So if you wanted to make something a weird shape like this thing, cell phone holder from 1,000 years ago, again, this is a weird shape. So I might make this shape using a box or a ball or something and just kind of experiment. But then when I'm done, the geometry looks terrible, right? It looks weird and all over the place and doesn't make a lot of logical sense. So recreating this shape that I made in a high polygon or resolution mesh in a lower version is kind of a good first step. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to create a base shape in here, and then we're going to bring it over into Mudbox. Now, for your base shape, you can come up with whatever you want. Again, the hardest part might be coming up with an idea or a concept, but if we know what we're going to make, we can do it in here. We can kind of bring over those components. So try to think of whatever you're going to make as being of separate pieces. So if I were going to model this like clip, for example, these parts I would probably make separate, right? And even if I were going to bring it over into Mudbox, I might bring this over as 3 different components. Obviously, it's a weird choice for Mudbox, but you kind of get the idea. Again, if I were modeling myself as a character, I might make my hair a separate piece, or I might make it just part of my head, but I most certainly would make my glasses a separate piece because trying to sculpt glasses out of a face would be very difficult. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to jump over here into 3ds Max and get started on our base mesh. Okay, so I think for this example, I'm going to work from this concept art piece from Baldur's Gate 3. So I found this on ArtStation. This is the artist's website, the artist that created this image. So, I'm not 100% sure. I played through Baldur's Gate 3, but I don't know if I've gotten far enough. Again, I'm not sure if this armor is already in the game or if it's just very similar to the armor I've seen from the game, but this is the one I'm going to work from. I'm going to work from the concept piece, and I'm going to create this armor. So if I were going to be creating this armor, first things first is I would probably break it down and try to figure out what am I looking at. Concept design, artwork kind of plays a little fast and loose with reality. So first things first is like this collar is a little confusing. He's got like a collar inside of another collar. The female version here, because this looks like it might be the same artwork or the same armor piece, is totally different. So this one has definitely a collar coming up as a definitive piece, and this one is kind of hidden. So first thing I have to figure out is how I want to approach that. I will say one thing that's really fantastic about this piece specifically, the male one, is the front view and the side, or the front view and the back view are straight on. So if I'm working from something that's literally a front view and a side view, or a front view and a straight on view, then I can use that specifically as a guide to really help me create the piece. This also kind of gives me the overall shape of the armor that I want. So I'm going to save this image, and then we're going to pop over into 3ds Max and we'll start building it.